Welcome to Common X. All right, before we get into today's conversation, we want to pause for a moment and say thank you to everyone who's found Common X recently and to those who've been riding with us from the beginning. We genuinely appreciate you. We've seen new listeners, new conversations, new guests, and new engagement coming in, and we don't take that lightly. This show exists because of the people who still care about depth, about asking why instead of just reacting, about stepping back from the noise and trying to understand the ideas and incentives shaping our lives, our culture, and our politics. If you're here, it tells us you're not just consuming headlines. You're searching for meaning behind them. And we're grateful you're spending your time with us. This is Common X, an independent podcast where philosophy work and the forces that quietly shape how we think and live. Today we're joined by Chris Engel. Good morning, Chris.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good. How
Now,
are you?
Chris is a writer, podcaster, and thinker who has spent years exploring the philosophical drivers beneath modern politics, economics, and culture. Through his books and the Philosophical Angle podcast, he's worked to translate complex ideas from both Eastern and Western traditions into insights that actually matter in everyday life. What drew us to this conversation is Chris's ability to move past surface level debate and into the deeper questions. Why do we believe what we believe? How are narratives shaped? What do you think, Chris?
Well, I think probably in today's current media, there's a huge division between the left and right, and my latest book, The Nature of the Political Left and Right, there's a list that there are 7 dictums that distinguish the left and the right, and perhaps we could go through those, and you might see might have some relevance to the political scene as we know it.
Yeah, we'd love for you to take us through that, man.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so the first dictum, actually, for both the left and the right, the first dictum is the same in both. Actually, the first two, and they are the first principle of economics, really of biology, that all life does that which is good for it, and continually does that which is good for it. And the and so that's kind of universal. It's a truism. And then the second one is I took from St. Augustine's theory of dominance, called libido dominandi, and he said that all men tend to dominate, and modern anthropologists would agree, because the advanced species of life often the males will try to dominate in each other in order to pass on their genetics to the herd, and men are no different. Men also and mankind have this will to dominate, and so St. Augustine pointed that out many centuries ago. And so that's dictum 2, and that's the same also on both left and the right, because we all tend to dominate.
Is that my caveman brain kicking in? Is that what that is?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And so dictum 3 is starts to divide, and here's the first division. In dictum 3, the left will take a look at another person and assume that that person has a nature that is inherently no good. And the right will take a look at somebody and think that his nature is inherently good. And both of these instances have substantial backings. Even in the Bible, there are verses that say that we are bad, that our nature is corrupt, and the Bible also says that it will say that all human we all fall short of the glory of God, but at the same time there are sections in there where Paul talks about in Romans 6 that we know we're bad, but we have to try to be good. And so there are both sides to the nature of humanity. But the left will tend to look at anybody outside of their group, and will look at them and say, "Okay, you're not good," and and the people of the right will tend to say, "Okay, your nature is good. We'll try to work with you," and you can see how this bears out in politics because when because when there's negotiations between the two, the left tries to doesn't want to give up what they've earned, and the right will tend to try to cooperate and with the other to find goodness within what they say, and so they will find some goodness, and on those points they'll try to negotiate, and thus the world governments tend to move little by little to the left. And then suddenly, when someone comes in from the right and drags it back, suddenly there is a tremendous outpouring of angst from the left, and you can see that in today's conversation, political conversations.
Oh yeah, we're definitely seeing that today.
So who
sure.
threw the first punch?
Well, it doesn't matter in the cooperative in the nature of cooperation between the two parties, because they have to talk to each other. The first punch is not really relevant. It's the attitude by which they will take to the conversation, and the left will try to move it the goalpost to toward their ideals, and the right will try to do it to the other side. But they do it in a different manner. One will take a look at it and go, your nature is not good. We really need to use our goalposts, our policies, and the right will try to look at that and figure out what's good about it, and then on those points they'll negotiate and come up with something, and the overall result is governments moving left throughout the world. There's almost no exception except just currently.
Did you think, like in
Go ahead.
today's political divide, it seems like nobody wants to talk to each other anymore. It's like left is like, well, this is what we want. This is what, if you're not going to give it, we're not going to talk to you. And the right's like, well, we don't want that. We want this. And there doesn't seem to be any middle ground anymore, any common shared understanding in that middle of like, hey, okay, you can have your left beliefs and you can have your right beliefs, but in the middle, there's something that all of us can agree on. But it seems like that's just gone.
It is gone because the present administration wants to drag it back to a significant area toward the right all at once, and this is creating the tremendous divide. And the left doesn't want to give up what they have been able to deliver to political society over the last 100 years, really.
Well, and they're corporate masters, but whatever.
Yeah, and the left, and one of the ways that the left does this is to incorporate into into their society the corporate hierarchy, because they control a lot of people, because they pay out a lot of paychecks, and so they try to get into their side of the aisle, the corporations, and they do this because the nature of the political party from its infancy a couple thousand years ago, how the political party even evolved, how it appeared, is that when we were tribal and ran around in little groups, we tended to have a leader would pop out, one that's a little bit stronger, one that was dominant, and that dominant person became the leader. And what leaders like to do all throughout the history of humanity is take a little more from society than what others have, because they're the leader and they deserve it and they feel they deserve it. And thus, as society grew, those leaders became kings and queens. And then as they grew even more, they started to incorporate helpers. And those helpers are the aristocracy. And the aristocracy then needed some functionaries to be able to operate further, because as society grows, the government grows, and so they'll have the sheriffs, and then the sheriffs will have deputies, and then your bureaucracy will appear, and so as society grows away from the original tribal where everybody knew everybody else, after they once they grow past that and where everybody does not know everybody else, the bureaucracy appears, and so does the political party, because now you have the haves versus the have-nots, and so these leaders that have grown into kings and queens are now the haves, along with their aristocracy, along with their other types of their functionaries that they need in order to take their edicts from the king and apply it to all of society. And so we have two political parties: one, the haves, and the second one are the have-nots.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up, and I kind of want to talk real quick about, what you're saying. I'm like, well, it kind of aligns with Democrats today, but I think a lot of people need to remember that, the South and slavery was the Democrats. Right?
That's right.
So, and that was their mindset, kind of what you're talking about. And it almost seems like they've kind of flipped the script, but not really, right? It's become more of a social, well, we're going to take care of everybody type thing. But their roots were in slavery and the South. And
Isn't
so,
that
like,
when the parties flipped, though?
no, well, Republicans were created, during the Civil War, like just before it. And that was Abraham Lincoln, got elected because of Republicans, and they specifically wanted to end slavery. So it seems today like the narrative is kind of flipped, or it's been perceived as flipped, or the media is showing it as flipped. I don't know.
When you say flipped, you mean
I think that
Flipped is
the
like,
Republicans were once the Democrats and the
Republicans.
Democrats were once the Republicans. I thought that happened after the whole
I
civil
mean,
rights.
like today, if you look at it, like, a lot of people say most of like the KKK and those kind of groups are Republican, far right, right? Which is not
not the
how
case.
that was right. This started, and Democrats are the ones protecting the people, and so it almost seems like, kind of like Ian said, it seems like it's shifted. But is that real, or is it just a narrative
It
they're trying to tell us?
it shifted because at that time the South was an agrarian society, and little knowledge was, and the economy was dependent on very little knowledge within the individuals that ran it. It was an agrarian society, but now recently in the last 100 years that has transformed, and now the South is an advanced society, no longer agrarian and technologically oriented, and therefore the amount of knowledge for each of the individuals present require greater education. And as people become educated, they tend to to want to drop out, to come up away from the have-nots of society and join into a bourgeoisie society and be
Right.
able to take to have a better living, which is dictum one. They want to have
Hmm.
to do. They want to do that which is good for themselves. And knowledge is what brings you up away from out of the have-nots and into being a producing member of society.
Right.
So, and this will become clear a little bit later here as I go through the dictums. And so, and you mentioned that the left wants to take care of the people and their through
Well, that's
through
what they
government
say.
programs. That's what they
Right.
say, and that comes out of course, socialism, which evolved
Right.
back in the 1820s in a theory called noblesse oblige after the French Revolution and the American Revolution, but more to the point to the first French Revolution, whereby a lot of the aristocracy got their heads cut off. And so the nobles are sitting around in the 1820s going, well, man, we don't want that to happen again. What
Right.
should we do? So they came up with the theory of noblesse oblige, whereby the nobles, the aristocracy, those guys, will make a contract with the have-nots of society and say, look, we'll take care of you next time. We'll provide you a job. We'll provide you with basic income. We won't be make you so downtrodden as we were. We'll do a little better this time. And so that theory came about, and of course, from that sprang 1848, the publication of Karl Marx's Communist Manifesto, and then the springing forth of the ideas of socialism, and that the idea that those haves shall take care of the have-nots, and that lasts right into today's society. And
Oh yeah,
so
definitely.
the Democrats have taken over that concept of noblesse oblige and of taking care of the downtrodden in society, and to get their votes, because something happened at the French Revolution and the American Revolution. Something dramatically happened that spoiled the whole thing, because before that it was clearly the kings and queens, and they took care of everything until probably the first big moved away from the power of the haves and the kings and queens was in 1688 with the English Bill of Rights. But then the major transformation of society was and the blow to the kings and queens ruling society was with the American and French Revolution, after which democracy, now they had to convince people to vote for them, because it's no longer king and queen and edicts and looking to heaven and say, I am the representative of God here on earth. No, now you're the representative of the people, and we got to convince you to vote for us. And so they took the idea of noblesse oblige and socialism, and now use it as their political platform.
Do you think when this country was founded, the founders were more aligned on the Democrat side or Republican side? Because, in reality, they were a bunch of rich white dudes from Europe that didn't want to pay taxes to the king anymore, right? So they came over here and started their own country. There was some
You're
other
talking
stuff
like
behind it, but
1776 or
yeah,
1700s?
yeah. So like Washington and Franklin and Adams, all those guys.
They're clearly men who wanted to bring freedom to society, freedom for the have-nots to be able to live and prosper and join the and prosper in society. And so the only way to do that was to not be part of a noblesse oblige. But at that point, there was no concept of that. It was just their idea of freedom, and so the have-nots always had a hankering to seek liberty, and that's what they did. And the greatest step forward in the history of the world, because now we've produced freedom in not only the United States, but in Europe and Asia.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and so that brings us to dictum number 5. So after noblesse oblige, you have the famous Lord Acton principle that that power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And what happens is that as the haves remain haves, and and even today, when they become absolute rulers like the old kings and queens, you understand that the Lord Acton principle was present all throughout the last 2,000 years, because when you have a total power, and today is like in Hitler and Stalin and Pol Pot and others, when you have total power within you, then your mind becomes corrupt, and it comes corrupt because of the nature of freedom. When you decide, and freedom is the following: it's the creation of your priorities is in your mind. You create priorities to do what's important for you, and then you effectuate those priorities. And so when you do this, and when a king does it, he realizes in this process that he no longer has to cooperate with anybody to make a decision. And when he knows that he doesn't have to cooperate to make a decision, and only his priorities matter, his mind becomes corrupted, and he makes all the decisions. And when he does that, knowledge becomes limited to just what he is thinking.
Do you
And
think we're seeing that today?
I think we are.
the farther left you go toward absolute control of society, such as in North Korea, such as in Cambodia, Pol Pot's Cambodia, such as in Cuba, such as in Stalin's Soviet Union, you saw a poor society, a society that could not keep up because the production of knowledge was inhibited by the Lord Acton principle. And you can see it throughout history when the kings sat down and told everybody that I am your God's representative on earth, and so you need to listen to me. So you need to do as I say, because only I am God's conduit, and His thoughts, and I deliver them to you. And that is total corruption of the mind. And
Right. So
and that came from the divine right of kings. And
So the
that's what
problem
they
isn't
were.
power itself, then it's unaccountable power, right? The absence of limits, transparency, or consequences, it kind of deforms their judgment, right?
That's correct.
And it sounds like you bring an interesting perspective, Chris, because we've had a lot of discussions about this on our show before, but it seems like the design of politics in America is kind of set up to be that way either way, and that there's no way for unity. Because
Yeah, I
if
mean,
if each party got what they wanted, it would look the same.
because
But
I think our society now has been kind of hijacked by corporate interests, and corporate interests, they don't have regulations on them anymore. They pretty much have unchecked power. They can buy anybody they want, right? And so, like, the people really don't have a say in what happens in our government anymore. At least that's what it appears to be like to me and other people I've talked with. Do you
Yeah.
agree, disagree?
Well, I agree to a significant extent, because the one of the ways that that the left will try, now that you have to vote for them, one of the ways is to get the leaders of not only the bureaucracy to vote for them, but to get the leaders of the corporations, because they control so many people, and they have so much power, and so they want to get them on their side, and then so you see the left going to the boardrooms and trying to convince them about DEI, or whatever other policies that they've gotten
Right.
on their mind. So
Well, and it sounds, it looks like, from the outside looking in, these guys just align with whoever's president, right? Because like under Biden, Facebook supported Biden and the
That's
left,
correct.
and lots of corporations supported left. And now that uh, Trump is in power, a lot of them come back to Trump. And so, you see a lot of the tech bros at his inauguration and all these billionaires supporting him. But you still have lots of billionaires that support the left as well. So, and I think we get caught in the middle and kind of left behind.
That's correct. Yeah, they have to go. They have to. They're businessmen. They have to go with the way the wind is blowing. And the left makes an active attempt at keeping them on their side. Of course, it's just like any game.
Right.
And so we want to go to the next dictum, the result of the Lord Acton principle
Mm-hmm.
is that you don't the leader doesn't have to cooperate, and he realizes he doesn't have to cooperate with any of his underlings, and so it's just his decisions. And what happens is that as a leader becomes more and more powerful, and only his decisions matter, then he becomes unethical. And the reason happens is because ethics is the appropriate dispensation of respect. And we respect others because respect is the evolutionary mechanism by which we cooperate. And we cooperate in order to produce goods and services. And we produce goods and services in order to bring us up away from misery, which is the nature of good and all that is good. So what happens is that because ethics is the appropriate dispensation of respect, and the leader no longer respects because he doesn't have to cooperate with anybody. So he looks down upon everybody, and thus his belief in his greatness and the divine right of kings theory comes to him. And when that happens, he loses all sense of ethics, and so kings don't have ethics. They have a lack of cooperation and respect for others, and when that happens, they become aethical. And when you have no ethics left within you, then all you have is the end justifies the means. And the more the left, you can take a look at all the leftists, serial leftists like Stalin and Hitler and Pol Pot and this guy in North Korea. They don't have any will to cooperate. They don't have any ethics, and so what they do is that the end justifies the means for them. And so when that believe in that, then they can go home and go to sleep at night. Stalin was a good sleeper. He, if you ever read First Circle by Solzhenitsyn, his portrayal of Stalin was frightening, and he was just as calm and wonderful as he could be. And because he knew that, he was right, because he had no ethical, because all it would matter was the end justifies the means. So he would murder all his people,
Millions. Yeah.
millions,
Yep.
and be fine with it, because the end justifies the means. And that runs throughout all of very serious leftist totalitarians.
So it sounds like when you're saying when leaders believe they're unquestionably right, restraint disappears.
That's correct, because
So
they don't have to cooperate anymore.
Wouldn't that be true of either party, though, the left or the right?
It would be true if it were true of the right. I mean, if the right did that same thing and became a leader that whereby he didn't believe he had to cooperate, then the same would happen to him also. But he would no longer be of the right, because because our definition of the right is that there is for those people that seek freedom.
Do you
And just as
do you,
and just as you said earlier, you said what was the guys who created our the American society? Were
mhm.
they of the left or the right? They were the right because they are the exception. They wanted to seek liberty and bring liberty to the United to those. And so there are people out there that are ethical politicians that do want to promote freedom, and we've seen that in the past. And that is what makes America great, by the way.
Do we see that kind of changing though with like Trump now? Because like his thing about Greenland seems like it's like what's the point? And most of the people that are supporting him and behind him are like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, why do you want Greenland? Do you think he's starting to get some of that absolute power and he's always right type of mentality? Or is it different?
Well, he is a pragmatist, and he works within the rules of the United States and in the United States laws and regulations, and he's not. I don't think he's aiming to send over the U.S. Army into Greenland and appropriate it, but he can talk about it, and
Right.
uh, and,
He's
and that's what
talk.
he's
Right.
doing. He's talking about it. He
Right.
wants to buy it, so he wants to make a deal, and that's Trump. The art of the deal. He wants to make a deal for it, and so whether he'll be able to or not, we don't know. I don't know, but he's trying. He's
Well,
trying to make a
the
deal.
problem is we don't have the money and Denmark doesn't want to sell it. So,
Right,
It
that's right.
sounds like
So,
there's some.
but all right, we'll see how that goes. All right. What's your next dictum?
well, then it's the conclusion that the left, the ultimate goal of the left, is for control of society. And this control of society has produced all the wars throughout the last thousands of years. All the kings and queens have gone out and created wars. It also is created, and when they move away from control and go to freedom, they produce some great societies, such as the Roman Empire. When the Roman Empire brought together, started to make laws and regulations that promoted freedom, they brought citizenship to the Roman Empire, and when they did that, they prospered. But then, after a couple hundred years of prospering, they started to become corrupt, and later on, their leaders were corrupt, and so thus they fall. And so the Roman Empire did fall, and that's the nature of all rise and fall of empires. When they move to control, the more they go down. They go downward. They fall into wars, and because of the corruption of the mind, and they just want more for themselves. And the more they move toward freedom, the more their empire will strive and do well. And United States is really the freest place on earth, um, and thus we prosper more because we are able to cooperate more with each other. And when we do that, we produce greater and more knowledge in society, and therefore all the great universities are here. All the people who want to do research, they're here
Right.
because of the 10 Amendments of the Constitution, and one article, and because of those amendments that the government can't take your money if you make it. That you can seek liberty, uh, and you can talk about it all you want, and because you want to talk about it, you can create all the knowledge that you want to, and because only we have the 10 Amendments, that first 10 Amendments, that's the reason for our prosperity more than any other country. And those that are more toward control can't keep up with us. They try, but they
Yeah.
can't do it.
So you talk a lot about like Eastern versus Western philosophy as well. And so what does like Western philosophy tend to get wrong that Eastern traditions seem to understand better?
Not much. We understand the nature of freedom. The East never did until just recently,
And
just the
is that
last
why you
100
think
years.
see like China honestly embracing more capitalism, right? And
They've
the
already
rise
done
of
that.
China, right?
Yeah,
So I
they've
mean,
already done
they're
that,
not as socialist as they claim to be anymore.
as they were once. That's right.
Correct.
Compare today's society in China compared to that with Mao in 1950. Woo,
Yeah.
big diff. Yep, they can travel now. We can travel there. They are so much freer than they used to be, and thus their
Hmm.
society is proliferating and getting better, and as uh, and their society is becoming very well off now, all because they're giving more freedom to the individual to be able to uh, start businesses, be able to create their own particular knowledge, and take that knowledge and make businesses and cooperate with others to be able to produce goods and services. So, we should probably also cover the seven dictums on the other side. We've kind of gone over. I've kind of concentrated on the dictums of the left.
Hmm.
We should probably review quickly the ones on the right.
Yeah.
And and so
And you
the
said there were
first,
some that were similar between the two, right? The first
yeah,
two.
yeah, the
Okay.
first two are exactly the same thing.
Okay.
All left does that, which is good for it, and Saint Augustine's theory of libido dominandi,
Hmm.
and um, so and dictum three is that I think we discovered we talked about that when a person of the right looks at somebody and he thinks that their their essence is inherently good, and there's some good about the person, and we seek for that goodness. And then then the fourth dictum is that there's a duty of voluntary charity, and there's a necessity to do good, and so that's a reason, because the left says that the government should provide their goodness with through, which started with noblesse oblige, but the right looks at it and goes, well, really should be done with charity, and our humanity should be primary, and we produce goods and services, and we need people to help us in cooperating together to produce goods and services. So this is our basis by which we are to be human, and for those who can't quite get it together initially, okay, charity. And so that's the ultimate goal of a conservative freedom seeker. And
So
then go
to
ahead.
put that kind of a little simpler is so the left is more of like a welfare state, government takes care of everybody, and then the right kind of mentality is charity and helping, people that have more help people that don't.
That's
Not
correct.
really a government doing that, it's the people doing that.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And um, and so uh, then there's the principle that kind of a flip side of the Lord Acton principle, that power tends to corrupt. Um, it's that the principle on the right is that absolute freedom begets ethicalities absolutely, and this is the rationale that freedom is compulsory for society, that we have to have freedom in order to be ethical, because, as we remember, ethics is the appropriate dispensation of respect, and we respect others in order to cooperate with them, and we cooperate to produce goods and services. And when this is in place, then we uh, uh, then society moves toward being more and more ethical, because more and more cooperation is necessitated. And then
And
finally,
does
go ahead.
that tend to lean to anarchy then, or do you have to have rules and laws in place in order to make sure that that doesn't happen?
Well, in order to cooperate, you have to have you have to be able to have agreements, and the nature of cooperation is making agreements, covenants, contracts, and that's another reason why the United States government is so great. Is because in the Constitution it says we have the ability to, you have the right to make contracts, and they are to be honored, and so. Uh, and so once more and more society, as society grows in its ability to cooperate and produce contracts and agreements, then it becomes more cohesive and is and stays together better. And so the ultimate goal is of a free society is to be ethical, because it's and which is the and which is done through seeking liberty, to be able to make contracts and to be able to make knowledge and be able to make your own priorities, and the freer you are, the more prosperous society will be. And so those are my dictums that produce the basic difference between the left and the right.
Do you think our AR overlords are going to enslave us then with that? Or will they be benevolent?
You mean the U.S. You mean the U.S. government?
No, the AI, right? Like, we're
AI.
racing to create artificial intelligence, and, everybody's trying to achieve this artificial general intelligence or super intelligence. And at that point, I think we kind of lose the plot depending on how AI views us. Kind of like, so if AI forces us to confront what consciousness, intelligence, and values really are we philosophically prepared for when that happens?
I think we're attributing a little bit too much to the skill, to the capabilities of what AI does or can do. I don't think
I
it's
would
going
tend to
to be
agree
able
with you.
to. Yeah, it's something that will allow us to do less in our lives. Something we can rely on. It's going to be able to produce robots and kind of like Lost in Space, where Will Robinson's running around with a robot and telling him that something's like danger, Will Robinson, and so it'll help him and assist him, but I don't think he'll take over our values, because our values really are the promotion of freedom and ethics for society. I don't think that AI will have in itself, because true AI is when a machine can think of its own self-importance.
Right.
But I don't think machines have that capability or will have that shortly, because that's the nature of life, that we do that which is important for us.
Right. So machines probably can't have a soul. Consciousness or intelligence isn't consciousness.
That's right.
Right.
For people who may not know your work yet, how do you describe what you're really trying to explore through your writing and your podcast, Chris?
Just being able to determine the nature of the concepts that are being used in current media. So when somebody says, this person is a leftist or that person is a rightist, I will be able to tell them through my definitions whether they're correct or not. Or when somebody throws out a term out there, and I'll just make comment as to whether they're correct or not, and in their ability to understand the nature of whatever concept they're using. That's the purpose of my not only my books but of the podcast.
You talk a lot about meaning behind the headlines. What do you think most people miss when they're just consuming news day to day?
So what happens is that when you get into an argument between the left and the right, or when two people get into an argument about almost about anything, what happens is that when they start to interrupt each other, they're not considering what Einstein had to say about the subject, which is that everything has a frame of reference. So when you have a frame of reference, you have to moderate that. You have to keep that in mind throughout the discussion. So often, and you see this when one person doesn't agree with another, they'll change the subject. They'll ask, well, did you go down the street today? And maybe that wasn't a good thing for him to do. So he goes, yeah, well, I went today. I took I took a walk, and doesn't really answer the question that he went down the street. Mm-hmm. So in the same in politics, the frame of reference needs to be established before in any contention, before you're able to come to any conclusion. And if you and most arguments are do not keep the original frame of reference in mind when proceeding with their arguments. You see it in political debates all the time.
Yeah, I think the ability for people to have meaningful conversations and debates has kind of gone. And that's why, I say a lot, debate should be a required class in high school for the last 2 years, right? So like Linda McMahon, if you're listening, pass it, say federally, all high schools have to have 2 years of debate. required class. Because
Yes.
I mean, it helps people understand both sides, right? Like, in your debate, you have to be able to argue both sides. So you have to do research into both sides. And then when you're making your argument, you can counter argue and everything else. But I think it helps people understand that shared narrative, and that, like you said, your frame of reference and how you approach things. It's like walk a mile in another guy's shoes, right? Or in my shoes. So you kind of understand where they're coming from. And then we can get back into that center discourse of, having actual productive conversation and moving forward as a society, I think, more centrally focused instead of extreme left or extreme right.
Hey, that's the purpose of why some of these debates have moderators. That's the purpose of the moderator, to keep everybody talking about the same thing.
So what you're saying is we need a moderator in Congress.
Yeah.
A third-party moderator.
Right.
New political position.
Yeah,
yes.
Not just a good talking head.
Right.
Chris, do you think people choose their beliefs, or beliefs just kind of quietly choose people?
People's beliefs come from their experiences, and experiences are a type of knowledge, and so are in essence knowledge, and so it comes and then their consciousness comes upon the knowledge and draws conclusions from it. They're because they're a sentient being, and so there's the free will of their mind will apply its understanding to the knowledge that comes to them, and they create their own conclusions from it.
You think that? Go ahead, Jared.
Oh, you can go ahead.
How much of our political division is really about philosophy versus incentives and media framing, do you think?
Well, incentives. incentive come right out of that first dictum. All life does that which is good for it. So anytime you make a decision, you have to you create your priorities, and then when you look at your priorities, and then you create a transaction, and the transaction is from you're going to create a sacrifice to get a reward. And when you look at your sacrifice and see how much it's going to take to make that sacrifice, then you judge that from how much reward you get from that, and that's called motivation. If there's little sacrifice and big reward, you go right ahead and you jump right in, and because motivation is there, it's the same.
So do you feel like we're heading towards a philosophical awakening or a deeper fragmentation?
As society becomes more and more knowledgeable, society becomes better and better off. So I think society is improving, and we are so much better off than we were 1,000 years ago, where human life had little value. And now human life is considered much more valuable, and as such, societies have prospered and through their freedoms, and become more ethical and understanding. Don't you think so?
Yeah, I think so. It makes me wonder though, are we more informed today or just like overstimulated?
Same thing. The more you become informed, the more you have to accept stimuli into incoming into your consciousness. I mean, there are two types of stimuli that come into us. There's that which is outside of ourselves, and that information stimuli come to our consciousness, and then there's the stimuli that come to us from within, from our own body, that gives us knowledge about what we should do. And the stimuli from without is definitely proliferating. It's getting more and more with the advancement of communication abilities of society. We have more than ever before. And it's producing great things in our lives. I mean, with all this knowledge, great research is being done. Look how the leaps and forward bounds that we've jumped in the medical industry, and in the food industry and health industry, and it's astounding. All due to the production of knowledge.
Yeah, I think we could be further if there wasn't a lot of corporate agendas, but
well, those corporate agendas, they're produced by the will of the corporation to produce a product or a service, and
profit, right?
And the profit is good because the result of creating a good or service is to attract a buyer, and we only buy, just when we get back to that point about the sacrifice versus the reward. They make a sacrifice in producing a product or a service, and then they put it out before us, and we only go and use our resources to purchase that reward if we perceive that there's goodness within it. And so there, and if we do it over and over, we come to the conclusion, well, this product is good, so I keep buying it every day because it's good, and when it does good things for me, for example, a good food and medicine, and so it does good things for you, and so when you realize that, then we know that the corporation is doing a good thing, and thus they receive for doing that a profit. And so the nature of profit it comes from the goods and services that they produce, which come from producing their goodness, which goes to the consumer. And so the consumer gives up a little bit of what he has earned, and it comes back in profit. And so the nature of profit is good.
Yeah, but don't you think that's been hijacked by greed? Like corporations, all they give it seem to give a crap about today is money and increasing shareholder value. I don't think they care about their consumers that much anymore.
They do, though. They only do it because they have to do it, because consumers are not going to buy what they're producing unless they perceive that there's goodness within that product. And so, yes, corporations want to create more profit, but they do that by bringing more goodness to the person who's demanding that goodness. Almost any product that you can name has goodness within it, and so and a corporation has made that, and therefore the corporation prospers from delivering more and more goodness, and and then people invest in the corporation because they're doing a good job, and when they're doing a good job, their stock prices go up because they're making more profit, because profit is good, because profit came from their extending their product and services to you, and that becomes, and you perceive the goodness there, and therefore everybody is uh, participating in the goodness of society.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of disagree, but I think corporations, if they were really caring about your goodness, they wouldn't be putting all these chemicals in your food, right? And making you more addicted to it. It would actually be healthier for you. And I kind of see that with, Make America Healthy and Kennedy trying to push all these banning of toxic chemicals that they're putting in our foods. And so I don't think corporations are creating products that are good for us. We're just addicted to them and they're cheaper, right? So if you go into any grocery store, the healthy food is way more expensive than the unhealthy food. And
True.
we subsidized it too. So, we put tons of chemicals in that food. Most of the rest of the world doesn't. America seems to be the exception at loving to poison their own people. So I think greed and corruption in corporations and the drive for profit, I think, has not led corporations to not create good products for us anymore. But what choice do we have?
Well, I
Right?
think
Like,
that was because we're watching the evolution of knowledge within the food industry. So 100 years ago, 120 years ago, processed meats came about. Well, no one thinks that processed meats are very good for you anywhere. But 100 years ago, it was better than regular meat because processed food was self protection to prevent bacterial growth within the food. And so when they didn't have widespread refrigeration, they just had processed. So processed came out. So it's not perfectly healthy, but it was the best that companies could do to bring more food to the marketplace. Now, today we've got all refrigeration. We don't have to worry like we do. And so as knowledge proceeds and knowledge becomes more and more healthy, and more and more knowledge comes to not only the supplier but to the consumer, all benefit and all evolve, and we all get better at it. So uh, uh, so now we realize that some of the things that used to be good for food are not good for us anymore, and so the companies will respond by producing other products. And as you said, the products that are really good are more expensive, and so as people learn about those more expensive products, and then the corporations will too, and they'll because the corporation invented that healthy product side that's more expensive too. So so it's all a matter of the amount of knowledge that proceeds in being developed within society.
What's a question that you wish more people were asking right now?
Well, um, in general, gosh, I don't know where to start on that one. That's a little bit too broad to
right? There's a
uh,
lot.
There's a lot. We got to narrow down
Well,
into a
if someone
specific
feels,
industry.
all right, if someone is feeling overwhelmed by the state of the world, right, where's a
Yeah.
good place for them to start, regaining clarity?
History.
Mm.
If you don't know, who was it? George Santayana said something about if you don't know your past, you're doomed to repeat it.
Right. Learn from history or you're doomed to repeat it.
That's right.
Yeah, I like that.
And then there was a corollary of it. If you haven't read history, then you don't know where you don't know where you're gonna go in the future. So history is a great place to start. Um, and then so the education in the school is primary to where to how to educate the kids so that society will benefit in the future. History is a great way, and then part of that is the civics and understanding the history of the United States, in addition to the general history of the world, and also kids don't understand the value of history, so you need to inculcate them in, as you mentioned earlier about values, um, they need to understand the value of not only history but literature also, and what great literature there was in the past. So I guess that so those are very there are things that I'm very much concerned about.
What are you working on now that you're most excited about?
Doing second editions of my book, um, and then the new book. Um, I will be defining concepts that are in science, and it's pretty difficult. Progress on this is not outstanding, but I'm getting together some of the things.
Where
All
can people
science? Are
find
you
it?
going to tackle like physics or
Oh
chemistry or
yeah,
what?
it'll be concepts such as time,
Okay.
dimensions, other ones like evolution. I want to
Hmm.
bring the nature of evolution in. I want to describe it a little bit more concisely or more completely in a mathematical formula, and I've done that in my latest book. I did that for the free market economy. I made an equation that defines free market economy uh, uh, in the latest book.
Where can people find your work?
Anywhere books are sold. The nature of the political left and right is on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. It's anywhere, and there's a audio version of it also. So if
Awesome,
you
man.
don't want to read it, you can listen to it.
All right,
Um,
let's have some fun. This is a portion of the show that I like to call Jared's Five.
okay, cool.
All right. So in this portion, we ask a bunch of questions of the guests. So we'll have a question from our previous guest. I'll ask you a couple fun questions, a couple deep questions, and then you'll get a chance to ask a question for our next guest.
Okay.
All right. So our last guest was Kate Azeroff. She's founder and CEO of Dip. It's a hair care company that is completely plastic free and they actually have some pretty awesome products. And her question for you was, what's something that you do during the course of your day that you think is special to you?
Special to me. Um, when I can go to the park, sit down, and work out my next problem of the next whatever I'm working on in writing. Um, and it has to be all alone and left to
Hmm.
myself with no distractions. That's the most important thing for me.
That's great. All right, fun one. What's your favorite movie of all time?
Bullet, Steve McQueen.
Oh yeah, that's a good
That
one.
I remember in college sitting in the audience when Steve comes out of his apartment, he wakes up and gets out of bed, and there is Jacqueline Bisset. And then he goes down and gets into his car in a 68 Mustang and starts it up. And I said to myself, I want that car. So
That was a
that
great
became,
car.
that was a great car.
Yeah, I'd love to have that car today too. I'd probably get a lot of tickets, but it'd be a fun car.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. What is your favorite cartoon if you ever watched cartoons growing up?
Well, one nickname I have taken upon myself is the name of Snidely Whiplash. So often when I send out emails or something, I will sign it Snidely Whiplash. And so, so the cartoons in which Snidely was prevalent, and I guess Dudley Do-Right and the Mounties, and so and
Right.
then Moose and Squirrel,
Yeah.
uh,
Rocky and
all
Bullwinkle.
yeah.
Yep.
So all those are all I think in the same half hour.
Yeah.
So those
The
are my
Rocky and
favorite.
Bullwinkle show.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. What's one thing people don't know about you that maybe they should?
Oof. Maybe they should. I'm a bigoted son of a bitch.
Wow, man.
Way to own it.
I mean,
That's awesome.
when I think that I've got when I think I'm right, it's hard to convince me to think otherwise.
Yeah. Stand for your beliefs, right?
Yes.
All right. If you could go back in time and tell your teenage self one thing, what would it be?
Yeah. Okay. To be more patient in my life.
It's a great one.
Several times in my life, I made decisions that did not take thought, and if I had just sat down and taken the time to work through the decision, I would have made some very excellent ones, and so, but that time is lost. So for others, um, before you make a decision, um, take patience, have patience in coming to your conclusion, and maybe seek a second opinion.
Great advice. Like it. All right. What is your question for our next guest?
So do I? Um, so all these questions you just asked me, these are your questions. So I'm supposed to make something independent for the next guest. Is that correct?
Correct. So
Like
the first one I asked you was from Kate, who was our last guest. And
okay,
then you'll just, it can be anything you want, any question you want our next guest to answer.
okay,
Something a little deeper though, like not what's your
okay,
favorite
got it.
color. But
Why
all
are
right.
you a Democrat, and why are you a Republican?
Oh, that's great. Awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, everybody. It's been Christopher Angle. Check out his stuff. Check out his books. If this conversation resonates with you, we encourage you to sit with it, share it with someone who values deeper dialogue, and follow the show so you don't miss what's coming next. Don't be afraid to visit commonxpodcast.com and check out our latest X Files articles and see who's coming up next on the show and get you some swag. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. It's good talking to you.
Great. Thanks.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in today to the podcast, Common X with Jared and Ian. We really appreciate you guys and would love your support. So make sure you click that subscribe or like button or follow us on all our social media platforms and on YouTube and Spotify, because that would really help us out. And that helps us bring more episodes to you guys every week. and hopefully from content that you guys want to see. So reach out, TikTok, YouTube, leave comments. If there's anything that you guys want to see or any guests that you want us to try and get on, let us know. We do have a good lineup coming. So thank you again. We love you guys. Thanks for your support. And we'll see you next time. And remember, common sense isn't that common. So that's why we're bringing common sense back from Generation X.